Hello, we are in one of my favourite places. We're in Liz Zorab's garden and I absolutely love coming here. I'm always inspired by how much change is happening and how hard you're working. And you might recognise her from some other videos. But as we know, spring is fast approaching. For people firstly who don't know what you do, tell us a bit about that. And also it'll be great to hear how you're feeling about spring, because I think gardeners feel two different ways.
Yeah, so I'm Liz Zorab, this is By the Farm, and it's a 0.8 acre, so 8/10 of an acre plot for the whole thing, and in here I grow about 85% of the food that we eat.
Impressive.
Throughout the year.
Very impressive.
And oh yeah, spring is just around the corner. I'm so excited to start a new year and I'm itching to get going, but I'm just biding my time at the moment. That there is that excitement going on.
Exactly, yeah. I think it's easy to get a little overexcited because we've had to stay really, hold back on things, but it's so close. So in this video, we're going to give 5 essential garden tips for a successful start to spring. And we'll also have a nice bonus tip at the end, which is a few ideas on coping with slugs this year.
Tip number 1 is about tool care. If you haven't prepared your tools for the new season back in autumn, which I didn't, and now is the time to gather all your tools together and really look at them and see what they need doing to them. So things like my hand forks and trowels, all the mud needs cleaning off them and they need oiling. And the reason for doing this is that then these tools will see you through another year without any problems. And it's also a good time to assess whether you need to repair or replace tools. So I'm the proud owner of a couple of handles that have lost their spades and forks, and now is the time for me to get these replaced so that I've got the tools that I want to use when I want to use them. Now I work with a no-dig garden, so actually having a spade and a fork is not as essential as it might be, but to help me lift things like parsnips and other big root vegetables out of the ground, this is really useful.
The second tip is to be patient. And the reason why I'm walking alongside Liz's polytunnel is because the great thing about polytunnels is that they're undercover growing, so you can start things sooner rather than later. But I see so many people and gardeners get so excited, and I understand why. And so many things, only to either lose them in a late frost or to find out that they've grown too big and they become unhealthy plants. So just be patient. What you should do is just keep a careful eye on the forecast, and if there's cold weather coming, don't transplant anything out. But then if you see any nights that might hit around 4 degrees Celsius or below, then take precautionary action by covering with some fleece or anything to stop some frosts.
Tip number 3 is don't succumb to the lure of all the seed packets. It's really tempting at this time of year to go and look at seeds and find lots on display that you really like the look of. I do it too, and I end up buying masses of different varieties of things I've never grown before, things I don't even eat, or things that I don't like to eat. And it's just the thing about the attractive packets that we want to buy, but it's worth going out and buying your seeds with a list in mind of the things that you want to grow and trying to stick to that as much as possible.
The fourth tip is every week create a checklist, because the thing about spring is that we all know how busy it can be. But when you live in a bit of a challenging climate, one of the most important things is to make sure that you maximize spring, because for example, for us, if we sow tomatoes a bit late, chances are we're not going to have a crop. So by starting every week with making a checklist of things to do, and then on the weekend, make sure you've done all of those tasks, and all that's going to do is just help keep you really organised and on top of everything, and not run into any problems later on in the season.
And tip number 5 is to spend a little bit of time, as often as you can, being outside in the fresh air and just appreciating what is already here, what's already growing, the wildlife, the birds. And the more you look, the more you might find things that you just hadn't spotted before. So the other day, when I was doing just this thing, I found down here there's a cyclamen plant just starting to grow. It's just got a few leaves. It gives me a chance to transplant this into the flower bed. If I hadn't been out here just looking and enjoying it, I would never have spotted that.
So there is always one ever continuing war that gardeners have, and that's with slugs.
Yeah.
And do you have any, what's a tip that you would like to give people if they're really struggling with slugs?
I think one of the easiest ways is to actually move your young plants out of the reach of slugs. So if you grow your plants in pots or in modules, and just keep them in a greenhouse, polytunnel, or inside, like on your kitchen windowsill, until they are bigger plants. It just gives them more of a chance to survive a slug onslaught.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you are then planting out larger, healthier plants, and hopefully that would work.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're being invaded by the ducks, and ducks are a brilliant way of reducing slugs. But if you don't have the opportunity to keep ducks, something that works really well to create little slug barriers, as we're doing at the moment, is using bramble. Because if I was a slug, I wouldn't want to go over this. So you can create little fences just by laying it down around your seedlings. And it's not going to stop every slug, but it's going to be a really nice, easy preventative measure. And I know there are so many places, allotment sites or back gardens, that are just crawling with brambles, and it's a very renewable resource, so make the most of it. So hopefully you found this video useful and are getting excited for spring like we are.
And if you've got any questions, don't forget to leave them in a comment, and Hugh will answer them as best he can.
As best I can. Thank you very much.